Turkish Airlines presents Business Africa.
Hello and thank you for joining us on Business Africa. I'm India Yuka. Here are the top stories this week. 5 CARICOM countries, members of the Caribbean single market, are seeking to strengthen their partnerships with Benin following a meeting focused on trade and agriculture. In South Sudan, oil production has resumed after a 10-month out, a crucial step for an economy that depends 90% on oil. Despite efforts to boost its competitiveness, sub-Saharan Africa loses $1.56 billion in 2024 due to internet shutdowns. Cotonou recently hosted a strategic meeting between Benin and 5 Caribbean nations. This gathering aims to deepen cooperation across several key areas, including economic, cultural, and security sectors.
In Cotonou, the foreign ministers of the CARICOM member states and Benin gathered to lay the groundwork for strengthened cooperation, aiming to improve the well-being of populations and promote a green and sustainable economy.
Is to explore ways that we can have economic cooperation. Minister Bakari, in fact, shared with us some areas that we believe we can explore opportunities, for example, in the green economy, renewable energy, and areas that we can cooperate and partner. The blue economy, of course, we share the Atlantic Ocean in common.
The meeting brought together several CARICOM member states, including Haiti, Dominica, the Bahamas and Grenada. Dominica emphasized its expertise in the managing of the blue economy, which focuses on the sustainable use of marine resources. This creates opportunities for tourism and development, biodiversity preservation and job creation.
For Dominica, the blue economy is very important. We are one of the premier whale-watching destinations in the world, and we have taken the step to create a whale sanctuary, for example, as part of our efforts to blue economy. We can look at sustainable use of marine resources.
As part of the strengthened cooperation, one of the first outcomes was the removal of visas between Benin and Dominica. The goal is to expand this measure to all CARICOM countries.
We have recently signed visa waiver agreements, which opens the door for Beninans as well as Dominicans to travel back and forth without the need for having a visa. The next step, which is the biggest challenge, is how do we facilitate air travel in a hassle-free way between the Caribbean and Benin. So we are prepared to explore these possibilities, see where they lead. This could be a gateway to Africa.
The ministers expressed their shared commitment to strengthening economic cooperation. CARICOM countries represent nearly 85% of the population of the Caribbean region, and the economic exchange potential between the Caribbean and Africa would exceed $1 billion.
To delve deeper into this dynamic and its implications, we are joined today by Mr. Olusegun Bakari, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Benin. Benin and CARICOM countries share a common history. How does this history facilitate current cooperation, particularly in the political and economic sectors?
Benin and the CARICOM countries share a lot in common. We share the same history, a history marked by the transatlantic trade, and we share a common culture and ambition. Today, the ambition, which has been carried by the President of the Republic since 2007, is to make CARICOM a key axis of our diplomatic strategy. So we will work together on political issues and, of course, on common international support in all areas of international decision-making. But we will also focus on economic issues, such as how to improve connectivity between our two regions in order to develop tourism and how to leverage our respective strengths.
In 2020, Benin launched an industrialization and agricultural transformation policy. How can the CARICOM countries contribute to this policy?
Benin is a major agricultural country. We have launched an extensive industrialization and agricultural transformation policy. So this is the connectivity and the connections we want to develop with CARICOM countries, building, of course, on what we already share in common. That means a shared culture, a shared history, and most importantly, shared values.
How can Benin and the CARICOM countries enhance connectivity between the two regions to boost local entrepreneurship and create new opportunities for the youth?
When we create new markets, when we open new doors, it is necessarily to allow entrepreneurs and young people on both sides of the small river, that is the Atlantic Ocean, to benefit from the opportunities we are opening up. The CARICOM market is a large market in itself. We are talking about 19 million people, but it is also at the gateway of the United States, offering access to an even larger market. I believe that by no longer requiring, for example, visas between two regions, young people can now go discover these areas, seize opportunities, create their businesses, trade, and so much more. What today's meeting allows us to do is to create a framework for political exchange, discussions and dialogue, and from there build the future and offer opportunities for our youth and our businesses.
Mr. Bakary, thank you so much for your time.
Merci.
The ongoing war in Sudan has paralyzed oil production in South Sudan for 10 months. The resumption of operations on January 8 marks a hopeful step towards revitalizing an economy heavily reliant on oil.
South Sudan resumed oil production on January the 8th with an initial output of 90,000 barrels per day following a 10-month suspension. This comes after the lifting of the force majeure on oil exports, which were suspended in February 2024 due to pipeline damage caused by clashes in neighbouring Sudan, currently embroiled in war.
Force majeure having been officially lifted by the government of Sudan through its letter dated the 4th, 2025, and based on that, the Ministry of Petroleum and partners would like to declare that the kick-off date for depot resumption is as early as tomorrow.
The petroleum minister believes that this resumption, crucial for an economy that relies 90% on oil, will stabilise and revitalise the country. Dr. Abraham Mailier, MAMA economic advisor, shares this optimism.
The government will be able to pay the salaries for those who have not been paid for almost a year. That's one. The government also will be paying for services. That services will bring peace. It is also smoothen our relationship between South Sudan and the Republic of Sudan. Now our relationship are going back to the normal because the stoppage of the oil has been counterproductive for both countries.
Before the war, Sudan produced 150,000 barrels per day, exported via Port Sudan on the Red Sea. However, South Sudan still faces challenges, including regional instability. The peace agreement signed in 2018 remains only partially implemented, and the elections originally scheduled for 2024, now postponed to 2026, would be the first since independence in 2011.
Internet shutdowns have cost sub-Saharan Africa $1.56 billion in 2024. Whether driven by political decisions or simple power outages, these disruptions are hindering the region's digital process. In 2024, sub-Saharan Africa lost $1.56 billion due to internet shutdowns, according to a report by the UK-based platform Top 10 VPN. These interruptions, often linked to politically tense contexts, have significant economic and social repercussions. Sudan, embroiled in a civil war since April 2023, has been the most affected. The shutdowns cost the country $1.12 billion, according to 72% of the region's total losses. These restrictions impacted 23.4 million people over more than 12,000 hours, a record duration. In Ethiopia, plagued by recurrent conflicts, including in Tigray, the shutdowns caused losses of $211.2 million, affecting 3.3 million people over 4,680 hours. In Kenya, although less severely affected, disruptions related to protests in June resulted in losses of $75 million, impacting 22 million people. The report emphasizes that these shutdowns harm Africa's competitiveness, hindering its digital development. Social media platforms such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter are often the primary targets, disrupting commerce and access to information. These losses are calculated based on digital GDP, the duration of the shutdowns, and the number of users affected. Although losses decreased by 10.3% between 2023 and 2024, the trend remains concerning. In Africa, these shutdowns stifle innovation, competitiveness, and integration into global digital economy. That's all for today's Business Africa. To watch this episode again, visit Africanews.com and our digital platforms. See you soon.
À bientôt.
Business Africa was presented by Turkish Airlines.